Hello, and welcome to Learning Excel 2016. My name is Mike Henry, and this is the fourth video from Chapter 3. We finally got here. We get to play with one of the most fun things. We are going to play with the if statement. There's three parts to an if statement: the logical test, the true, and the false. So we're going to learn all about the syntax of how to build an if statement. We're also going to learn when and why we'd use an if statement. Basically, we're teaching the computer how to answer a question. And that question is going to be, what do we want? Do we want this result or that result? So anytime that we're in a place where there can be one or two answers put into a cell, we're going to use an if statement to pick which of the two answers we want. So we've got a spreadsheet here as we look at this. It's a pretty basic one, but it's one that actually some of you may, depending on where you go in your career, use something like this. And basically this spreadsheet is going to be used to calculate out someone's weekly sales, they're a salesperson, and then what they would get paid for commission, and maybe if they were getting a bonus, how they would get the bonus. We can see right here the week 1 through week 4 sales, so we got the monthly sales in here. We can see that they're going to get paid 10% of sales, that they need to sell more than $24,000 to get a $500 bonus. And if they can sell more than that, they get a monthly bonus. And then over here, we're going to compute out what they actually get paid and their sales amount. So when you first look at this, you go, well, that's a pretty easy one. We need to calculate the total sales. We just need to add these together. Come hit the easy button. That's done. So now we can see that they've sold $24,926. So for their commission, you go, well, that's a pretty easy one too. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking their total sales, and we're going to multiply that times their commission rate. So they're going to get 10% of that. And you can see that they've got $24.97, so $24.93 for their base pay for the month. Now we need to figure out their bonus, whether they get bonus or not. Now in this case, we are going to ask the computer to figure it out for us. Now we can look really quickly and say, well, they have to sell more than 24,000. If they do, and they did right here because they sold $24.93, we would just put $500 in here, and then we'd be off and running. Okay, and we could actually do that as humans. We could put in that, and then you could say, well, now I just total up these two to show how much money they made for the month, and we'll do that real quick. And you can see it comes to $29.93. But we want to use a statement here, a mathematics statement, to force the computer to figure out if they've got the commission, or excuse me, the bonus or not. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to look at their bonus. And we are going to use a statement called an if statement. An if statement allows us to look at or compare certain things. So in this case, we're going to say if this right here, total sales, is greater than this bonus level here, you get bonus. But if not, you're going to get 0. Okay? And so let's first take a look at how an if statement gets written out. So real quick here, I'm going to bring this up here, and we'll get a pen here. And basically what we're looking at here is the syntax of an if statement. So all if statements, like formulas, start with an equal sign. They will actually have the word if, because this is an if statement, and all functions that are used have an opening and a closing parenthesis. Now, all if statements will have three parts. So right here is part 1. We will call this the logical test. And then the second part of an if statement will always be called the true. This will be what happens if it's true. And then here, the third part will be the false. Okay? And then I close off my parenthesis. So these are the three parts. Inside the parentheses, we have arguments. So this is the first argument, this is the second argument, and this is the third argument. To separate arguments, we use commas. All right. So we've got all three parts and components here. We've got the syntax of how it's going to be written. And so now what we're going to do is put in, and I'm just going to switch colors here. I'll switch to a blue here. And we're going to put in our logical test. Well, we said our logical test before was, is the total sales greater than the bonus amount? So here we look at total sales, which is actually B6. So we're going to have in here B6 is greater than, and then right here is where our bonus level is. So this one is F2. So we say if B6 is greater than F2, if B6 is greater than F2, you have to go to the true. And in this case, the true is this amount here, $500, but we don't say 500, we say F3. So if this is true, go to here, F3 is this, you get $500. If this is false, you skip the true, you go automatically to here, and you didn't get bonus, you get 0. No dollars for you. Okay, so that's what an if statement looks like. We have the logical test, the true, and the false. They're all inside the parentheses, and they're separated by the commas. So let's just take a quick look at how I would type this in and what that would look like when I type this in. So right here under bonus amount, and I'm going to type this, I'm going to type in equal, and I put in my if. Notice that my functions start appearing here. I have different ifs that I can use, and I decide I'm going to use the if right there. So I've got my opening parenthesis. Now look, the computer's trying to help me. See how logical test here is a little bit darked out? And these are dimmed out. So it's saying right now I want the logical test. And so I put in here B6 is greater than F2. So you can see I've got those pieces in here. Now watch when I hit the comma. As soon as I hit the comma, the logical test got dimmed out, and it said now I'm looking for the value if this is a true statement. And the value if it's a true statement would be F3. Now you can see it just turned purple. Now if I hit the comma, I'm moving from the value of true to the value of false. Watch how they dim out true and they just darken false. So in this case we know that the value if it's false is 0. I put in my 0 and then I put in my closing parenthesis. Now I have written here, I've typed in here exactly what's written over here. I hit enter, and you can see that I get $500 because this is truly greater than this. Now if someone calls in and says, hey, I'm really unhappy with that product and I'm returning it, and now my weekly sales end up going down for this week, and so instead of selling $56.82 I end up selling, let's do $48.56. Oh, that wasn't quite enough, so someone else returned something, and now we're down to $3,500. That'll make it happen. Now you can see my sales are down low enough. They're at 22, which is less than, so that's why I get 0 for a bonus. Okay, so this is an if statement. It allows us to take a look at something that's happening between adjoining cells or cells that are not adjoining. It allows us to take a mathematical function look at things and say, do I really want this to happen? So this is the first if statement I'm going to show you. So in this video we looked at the if statement. We now understand we can have the computer ask questions of our data and make it a lot easier for us. It'll make it a lot more accurate and quicker. And basically what we can do is we can compare things. We can say, is this number greater than that number? Is this number equal to or less than? So we can use comparisons in here. We learned that an if statement has 3 parts: the logical test, the true, and the false. And we learned that those are called arguments. And when we look at the total if statement, we know now that we open it with an equal sign. We put our if, and then in our parentheses we put our 3 arguments in the order of logical test, true, and false.